Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. In Book 1 of the Mike Salas Detective Series, Last Night in Sturgis by J.J. Spain, A Simple Arrest. Detective Mike Salas has identified the killer. Salas knows where the killer is. His plan, arrest the suspect before he strikes again. Now his problem, 1 million bikers at the 75th Annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Follow Indiana Detective Mike Salas to Sturgis, South Dakota, as he tracks down the serial murderer. Ride the Black Hills, experience Mount Rushmore, the Chip de Bus, and downtown Sturgis, while the killer stalks his next victim. Be there when the killer strikes. Will he make his kill? Will Salas stop him? Will it be the last night in Sturgis? J.J. Spain is a 25-year veteran of the Sturgis Rally, bringing the Black Hills ride and the Sturgis experience to your fingertips. You'll feel like you're there. Take the ride and enjoy the rally. The Last Night in Sturgis, a Mike Salas novel, recipient of the prestigious Plume Award of Literary Excellence, and author J.J. Spain, our guest on This Week in America. J.J., welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rick. It's great to be here. I really appreciate this.
What an exciting series you've created. And let's start with talking about the inspiration for this. How did you come up with the series, and how did you come up with the novel we're talking about today, the first one, A Last Night in Sturgis? How did this whole thing begin?
Well, it's how things just kind of happen sometimes. You get you challenge yourself to do something, Rick. And I'm an avid reader. I love Lee Childs, C.J. Box, Walter Mosley, and Anita Shreve. I read different genres, different authors, and I was reading one day. I was on an airplane. I'd travel out for work, and I'm reading a book, and I think I could do something like this. I think everybody has a story to tell. It's just who takes the time to write it down. And I challenged myself. I set a goal, and I put some of this stuff on paper. And I've been to the rally so many times, to Sturgis, 4 or 5 times a year. I know the Black Hills like my back of my hand, and I challenged myself, and I just started writing, and I had a kind of an idea what I wanted to do in the character base, and it just kind of came to fruition. And my first book was on fiction is Last Night in Sturgis, and I think it came out pretty good.
It came out really well, receiving excellent reviews, a winner of the Plume Award, as I mentioned in the beginning. Did you realize this was going to be a series? When you started, did you think, I think I'm going to have a series here, or did it become so much fun for you to write and so many ideas come to your mind that you decided, I'm not going to stop it at the end of the book?
Yeah, that's a great question. At first, it was just I want to just do one,
Yes.
and as I started writing it, I just saw more patterns that could come and evolve with the main characters of what could happen in the future. And then, so when I finished Last Night in Sturgis and got it edited and rewritten and edited and rewritten, that process takes forever. I was already in the midst of book 2, and we've got book 3 that just came out as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll give you information on all of those. The first one we're talking about in the series is A Last Night in Sturgis, a Mike Salas novel, Salas, by J.J. Spain. You'll find it the usual places, writersrepublic.com, Amazon. Mike's website, or the website for the main character, Mike Salas, is MikeSalasNovels.com, and I'll give you that throughout the program. Spell that out for you so you can get information on all 3 of JJ's books at his website, MikeSalasNovels.com. Before we get into the main characters and the storyline, talk about this fascination with motorcycles. This is something that you've been doing for what, 2.5 decades, it sounds like.
Yes, yeah. Well, we live out in the country in Nebraska, so I always had dirt bikes as a kid. But my first Harley, it was kind of unique. My son at the time was 4, pushing 5, and we live right on the South Dakota border, so we get South Dakota television. And he comes out of the TV room and he goes, "Dad, Hulk Hogan is going to be in South Dakota. Can we go?" He's a big, all-star wrestling fan.
Yes.
So I look it up, and he's not that far away. So our first trip to Sturgis was in a Nissan Pathfinder. We drove out to Sturgis, and we get up to there. We walk through the crowd and just amazed with all the bikes and the noise. But we're standing in line to go see the wrestling. And we stood there for like 2 hours in the heat, and my son's on my shoulders, and we're talking. We're just in a line full of guys on their motorcycles. The motors are shut off; they're all waiting to get in. And we're standing next to this guy, and his name's Tiny. He was from New York. he had to weigh about 300 pounds plus. His belly covered part of his gas tank, and he was the hairiest guy I'd ever seen in my life. And he had a leather vest on his upper body. That's all he had. And he was a Mongol, which is a bikers club, and he came out of Buffalo or Syracuse, New York. So we finally get into to watch the wrestling, and the security guard he looks at me and says, "You can't get in. Only bikers only can get in." And Tiny looks at me and he goes, "Put your son on my back. I'll get him in. You ride with this other guy." And so I put my son on the back of a Mongol motorcycle club biker, and he takes off with my son to go into the rally. And I look at the other guy I'm going to ride with, and he's huge. He's sitting on his bike and probably a foot taller than me, and I'm standing up. I'm 5'9". And I look at him and go, "I'm not getting on your bike." And he goes, "No, you're not." And he looks at the security guard and says, "He's coming in with me." And the security guard was like, "Okay." And he let him go. So we got in, but we learned you can't get into there unless you have a motorcycle. So after the rally, this was in August. It's April, May, June. I'd been saving up, and I go to the Harley Davidson dealership and I buy this. It's a used, a lot of miles, Harley Davidson Sportster 1200. And I come home, I pull into the garage, I rev up the engine, and my wife comes out from the kitchen and she's hot. She's ready to set me on fire. She sees this motorcycle. And we got, 3 kids all under 7 years old. And here I come pulling in with a motorcycle. And she was mad that I was, she knew I was asking for forgiveness. I didn't ask for permission. And, but right at that time, Matt comes out and he sees the Harley and he just jumps in my arms. He goes, "We're going to Sturgis." And, that's how I got my first bike. So it was, I got the forgiveness from the wife, and she saw my son's face, and that's how we got our first Harley.
It's a great story. It all starts with a Hulkster going to actually see him wrestle, and you've got a lifelong pass for wrestling at Sturgis. The book by our guest on the program, J.J. Spain, is Last Night in Sturgis, a Mike Salas novel, the first of 3 in that series. Are any of the stories, dialogue in the novel from real experiences? Obviously, you had a whole lot of experiences, just like the one you just conveyed to us, to draw from. Any of the stories, characters from those experiences?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a people watcher. I love to watch people and listen to them speak, listen to the dialogue and so forth. But most of the stories. Of course, I'm not a serial killer by any means. I haven't seen any of that. That's all, total fiction. But a lot of the stories are real, like the 2 Sons of Silence bikers that were camped across from us on this midnight, and they're trying to work on their bike. They had an oil leak, and how I went over and put my headlight on there so they could do the work, and I gave them some beer, and then the stories riding on the bus that's called to get people into downtown Sturgis. The Dungeon's a great bar. The Oasis is a great bar. The karaoke all those are based on true events, and just kind of embellish them and expand on them. But yeah, a lot of the scenes are real life scenes.
J.J. Spain, our guest, the book Last Night in Sturgis. His website is MikeSalasNovels.com. Mike Salas being the detective, the main character in the series, Salas. When you go to these rallies, why are people there? You went there with your son to see wrestling and got hooked on all of the atmosphere there. Is that it? Once you go, you want to go back every year? It pulls you in?
Yeah. My wife has asked me this. She asks me this every year. I'll tell you the same thing I tell her. Rick, if I gotta explain it to you, you wouldn't understand. But it's just an experience when you get there. And I've been to a lot of different rallies, Daytona to Laconia to Laughlin. The Four Corners rallies. And what I love about Sturgis is, the city of Sturgis is only about 6,000 people, and the state of South Dakota is only 900,000, and the neighboring state of Wyoming is 600,000. So when the rally is going on, last year during the pandemic, 400,000 bikers came up. Wow. And like I said, during the 75th that this is based on, Last Night in Sturgis is based on, there was over 1 million bikers. So the state of South Dakota doubles its population during that time. And what's unique about Sturgis is that that's all that's going on is that rally. At Daytona, you've got the beach goers, you've got the golfer goers, you've got some retired people that are riding around with their left blinker on all the time, and every once in a while you see some bikers. But at Sturgis, it's all about the ride, the bike, the Black Hills, the Spearfish Canyon run, which is a beautiful run, the ride to Rockford, the Needles Canyon. Everybody's there because they're there for the rally and the bike. And it's just, it gets in your blood. You enjoy it. You love it. And it's just, it's a good ride. And it's a great party.
The other books you mentioned, you talk about Daytona, the second in the series, 3 Days in Daytona. And then I think the new one is When It Started in Laughlin. All those are available at JJ's website, MikeSalasNovels.com. Okay, let's talk about the characters. The main characters we read about in the book. We'll start with The Last Night in Sturgis, and of course your lead character, the Indiana detective. Any of these people from real life people you know, or did you draw up most of these, or probably a combination of those?
Yeah, it's a combination. Mike Salas is, I don't know where I got the name from, actually. I heard the name one day and I just thought, that'd be a great detective guy's name.
Yeah, I like that.
And I'm a former college wrestler, so a lot of my guys have a wrestling background. And Mike Salas, we talk about he wrestled at University of Nebraska. That's where I wrestled back in the day. And some of that stuff is some of my own experience bringing it into Mike. And Mike's I was a 50-pounder. Mike's a heavyweight, but he's a bigger, muscular guy. Kind of like if you stick with Hulk Hogan, if you remember a Steve Austin type, Stone Cold Steve Austin, kind of looks that kind of a character, or The Rock. It's kind of the vision of what I have him looking like, big bald guy. And then RJ is actually based off one of my best friends that passed away from leukemia several years ago, and I kept the RJ name. And RJ was a national champion wrestler and one of the baddest guys I've ever been around. Tough, mean, and just with a heart of gold and big teddy bear. And that's how I kind of based those two main characters together. And but in book one, Last Night in Sturgis, they don't really meet. They're at the same spot, but they don't meet. And in book two, on the ride to Daytona, they happenstance meet each other at a Waffle House in Atlanta, I believe, is where they meet, and then they become friends. And that's kind of what the story starts evolving about, how they were at the same spot, didn't know it, and then they move on and become friends.
When you started to write Last Night in Sturgis, did you have all this laid out in your mind? Did you have the the whiteboard there with the outline, and then you went back and followed it, or did some of these characters almost come to life in your mind and you sort of deviated from where you thought you were going to go?
Yeah, I read a lot on how to write a book. There's a lot of Stephen King stuff. There's a lot of books out there that tell you to do it. Some guys like to and authors, guys and gals, they like to outline it. So I started out with an outline, and as exactly like you said, Rick, as I started writing, I saw myself going into a different direction based on the conversation that they were having, or based on the events that happened.
Yes.
And then a new character just popped in, and those sideline characters, that's been probably the most fun for me to write, is the sideline guys that come in with hopefully bring in a little humor, a little sarcasm, and those guys are like in book one and Last Night in Sturgis, Kevin Buckles, Matt Buckles, they're just good guys to write about, but they don't have a big line in the story, but they bring a lot to the story.
You've got so much research. I mean, 25 years of going, all these characters in your mind. They stay in your mind, or you just go back and keep a notebook and write down some of these people and their characteristics so they may appear in an upcoming novel?
Yeah, I do. I keep a notebook handy that hits me at my sleep. I write it down, or as I do, like I said, I do a lot of travel. I'm on an airplane. I take a lot of notes and come up with some new ideas, or I see somebody that's unique in their mannerisms, and I kind of write it down and say, I want this guy to kind of walk this way, or do it this way, or talk this way. So yeah, I sure do.
In this
Probably
case,
have a Rick Bratton coming up here.
Here we go. Just don't make me the serial killer. You've got the serial killer here. What are some of the underlying themes that you like the listeners to take away, the readers, from reading the entire series of books? It's more than just a little, a well-told story of adventure, but you've got some character development that's interesting. You mentioned the underlying theme, possibly with the two main characters, the relationship they have. What do you hope we get out of reading this?
The Last Night in Sturgis, it is about a serial killer and the detective that comes in, and how he's just the shock and awe of coming to Sturgis and that many motorcycles. I really want my readers to kind of, hopefully they just see that it's beyond what you can imagine. Hope you describe that. And part of the book is a little bit of a Sturgis travel guide too, for people that haven't been there, or people that have been there. They're going to go say, yeah, I've been to that bar. I've been to that campground. I've been to that space. And so that's part of it. And then is that you get some of the motorcycle experience, and also, what I find what I love about riding, like we're going to Laconia next month. The journey is just as fun as sometimes the destination, and that's where you learn a lot about bikers and the ride is the journey. So you've got the actual destination, you've got the journey to get there, and then I think developing the RJ and Mike, and then another character Ronnie, and his girlfriend Doris. They're the regulars. They're the four regulars I think you're going to find in all the books. How they develop, how Ronnie matures, how RJ and Mike become lifelong friends. The loyalty, the camaraderie, and that whole biker experience is what I'm hoping that people get. And I hope they enjoy it. I've got. Like you said, I've gotten a lot of good reviews. I love criticism, positive or negative. I'm not going to get better at writing unless people give me critique me, and that's what I'm looking for.
The book we're talking about specifically, the first in the series, Last Night in Sturgis, a Mike Salas novel, out book number 2. Book number 2 is 3 Days in Daytona, and the newest one out, it started in Laughlin, and all those available wherever books are sold. You'll go to MikeSalasNovels.com, the best place to go to get all the information, updates on what JJ is working on. What's next in line for the main character? Still a lot of action. I'm reading about it started in Laughlin, and there had a lot going on there. Karaoke, bar fight, sex trafficking, pure revenge. You've got all the elements there. Where next with the characters?
Well, they left off in book 3. It started in Laughlin. It did start there, but it ended back in Sturgis because of another old time biker gang that was based out of there. But in book 4, that's in the writings right now, it's based on there's a small rally in the Lake of the Ozarks, so we're going to go there next. And that's close to home, so I get there quite a lot. I'm trying to learn more about the whole area and ride it more often. And so I think that's where they're going to go next. And well, of course, RJ is going to ride up. He's going to ride over, and Salas will come over from the Fort Wayne and get over there, and hopefully they'll have a good adventure.
It's interesting that it all started with Hulk Hogan and a used Harley. What are you writing now? I'm sure you've got something there that's more current, more comfortable.
Yeah, I like the old bike. I ride an 08 Ultra, and my wife likes the back of it. She's comfortable on that, and I gave my Road King to my son, and he's riding that full time. And then I've got an old bike that my buddy RJ that passed away. That's his old bike, and I keep that as a memento, and I don't ride it all that much. But they're all older bikes. I'd like to get a new. Get one of the new ones, but I'm kind of tight, Rick. I like my old bike. It rides good. It's been used to me. It knows me really well, and I know it really well. So I'll probably keep riding this 08 till I get 80, 90,000 miles on it.
Well, there's something about having that comfort factor there. You're comfortable riding it. You're comfortable, traveling on it. That makes some sense to keep that. I mentioned.
Yep, I just got her new tires now, so she's going to be with me for a while.
There's a commitment for a while, so it's going to be around
sir.
for a while. I mentioned in the beginning, you really make, in the case of Sturgis, really that area come alive. And you mentioned these places. Are most of the places you talk about actual places, or do you create some as you're telling the story?
No, I try to keep it the actual locations. I think that brings more reality to what you're seeing. And again, I like a little bit that little bit of a travel guide that the riders that have been there, they can say, yeah, that is how that bar is, that is how that restaurant is, or that is how that campground is. And it's just so exciting. Every we've stayed at several different campgrounds. We've camped out in people's front yards. We've had a hotel. We've stayed in Hill City. We've stayed in Deadwood. This year we're going to stay back in Deadwood again. And so we have a lot of different areas that we've explored and stayed at, and we know all the back roads. So I like to explain it so that people can actually live it. If you haven't been there, it's out of the way. But so you haven't been there, you can at least read the book and get a little bit of feel for the Sturgis Rally.
It's interesting. Well, you're going to go back to Sturgis. Will Mike Salas go back to Sturgis? It's a great location. Yeah, you do such an excellent job of bringing it alive. Is Mike going back another case, taking back there?
Absolutely. We'll probably start that on book 5. I hope. So we're looking at different things we want to write about, and different characters, but Sturgis is the heart of it. And like I said, I go up there outside of the rally 4 or 5 times a year. I like to go up there and ride the Black Hills. It's just such a beautiful area. It's very unique. It's very protected. Like I said, there's not that many people out there. You can ride by yourself and just enjoy the whole thing. And that's why I want to get Salas back out there and have him enjoy it.
Minute or so left here. It seems like you're having the time of your life in writing these stories, coming up with the stories, researching these stories, telling these stories. How much fun has this been?
It's a ton of fun, and I work full time, and I try to write full time. So you have to you can't do it all. You got to give up something. I won't give up my time with my wife. We've been together 40 years and growing. We got started dating at 14 and got married at 19, and so I've been with my wife over 40 years. That's longer than Moses wandered in the desert, right? So I gotta stay with my wife, and so I gave up watching TV basically. So I like to read, I like to write, and I hang out with my wife. And my kids come down, we get to hang out with the kids, and it's a lot of fun. And my kids always are asking me too, "What are you writing about next, Dad? Are you upstairs writing? You better go get to work." And so I got my whole family supports me, and it's fun to do it that way.
You mentioned TV. Mike Salas would make a great television character. I can see him doing quite well in television. Any talk of maybe developing this into some type of video series?
That's so far beyond me, Rick. That's a whole different screenplay stuff that I'm not into. That's have to be. Talk to my publicist.
Okay. Well, I tell you, you sell the rights for a couple $1 million. You let them handle the screenplay and all of that, because the character would really come to life on the screen as he does in the books. There are 3 of them. The first one, Last Night in Sturgis, a Mike Salas novel. The second one, 3 Days in Daytona. And the newest, It Started in Laughlin. All of the books are available wherever books are sold. The writersrepublic.com, for example. You'll find the books at Mike's, I keep calling it Mike's website. It's Mike Salas Novels. That's the main character, JJ's website, MikeSalasNovels.com. That's SALAS. All of this on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. JJ, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. Enjoy your summer, some trips up to Sturgis, and hopefully we can do this again and talk about the new book. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Been a lot of fun. Our guest is J.J. Spain. The book, The Last Night in Sturgis, a Mike Salas novel. There are 3 of them available at writersrepublic.com, MikeSalasNovels.com, other places. Information on our website. We're back on This Week in America after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, associate producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, segment producer. Ben Watson, webmaster. Otto Bechet, director of engineering and TV production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, executive producer of This Week in America.